Welcome to the University of Findlay's Art and Culture Show. I am your host, Sharinda, and we would like to thank Marathon Center for the Performing Arts for giving us the opportunity to record an interview here on their stage and in their auditorium. It's such a beautiful location. This is always one of my favorite places to host the Art and Culture Show when I am interviewing comedians. And I'm very honored that the comedian I'm getting ready to interview today is actually a student at the University of Findlay. His name is Eli Schroeder, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and welcome you to the set.
I ain't doing anything, but no problem.
So, what year are you at the university?
I am a junior here at the university.
Okay, and what are you majoring in?
I'm a finance and economic major, which we can see how that correlates to stand-up comedy, but I also have a minor in digital media, which is where this kind of comes into play.
Okay, and what got your attention that you wanted to pursue stand-up comedy?
Oh, so when I grew up, I was always told that I was funny, but when I was in third grade, I watched my first stand-up special.
And who was that?
The legend himself, Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
But when I realized, it's like, oh, people do this for a living, you can make people laugh and smile, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it, or at least look into it. And it developed as I went, and well, here we are.
And one of the things that caught my attention when you reached out to me through email, you introduced yourself because you're a part-time writer for our school newspaper, which is also digital.
Shout out Professor Rogan.
And you wanted to do an interview and find out what Comedy Jam is, because Professor Rogan had mentioned that this has been going on for many years. And when you learned about it, you reached out and said, hey, I'm interested. Is there a chance I could talk with you? Because I'm also a stand-up comedian coming up. And the thing that caught my attention, you said, I know what it's like to be in the bars and the clubs. I want to learn what the difference is with a comedy concert. And that got my attention. I was like, all right, he's legit. He's been studying, he's been checking. He truly is invested and interested. So the clubs that you have checked out, have they been mainly in Ohio, Northwest Ohio?
I'm not the biggest comedian yet. So Northwest Ohio is kind of where I keep it, mostly because gas has been expensive and I have a Corolla.
Yeah.
It can only go so far. But I've done a big show. It was right in Sandusky, right outside of Cedar Point, and that was like a cool opportunity that I accidentally got.
Yep.
And I got to see how they were running the show and setting up all the cameras and the sound and stuff, and I was like, I got to try to get involved in this when I saw the opportunity.
So what other things are you interested in as a university student?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, being a finance student, I've got involved with learning about how to be good with your money and investing smart and all this type of stuff. What I was really interested in was learning how entrepreneurs like build up a business. And with comedy, I mean, I could go around and travel and be a comedian for however long, but I want to build something that's sustainable possibly. And what piqued me as in going to college to be a business student was to learn how to run a business and create a business. So just continuing to learn how to I've taken marketing classes, but I want to take classes in each avenue to really learn I guess how to run these, or create something.
Right, right. So you have the dream and you are now connecting the learned knowledge to making that dream a reality.
We're working on it.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So many students that I talk with, they wait until after they graduate. They'll say, well, I'm doing this right now and maybe someday after I graduate. And that always makes me cry a little bit on the inside, because I'm like, everything you're doing right now is preparing you for that unexpected opportunity. If you wait until after you graduate, you've missed so many opportunities to hone skills and develop and dream and take chances. So kudos to you for doing that now and having that plan, but generating and organizing it all the time behind the scenes in the brain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to piece it all together, but I wouldn't have started actually going out and doing the stand-up if it wasn't for having my pain and my behind kind of friends.
Yeah.
Because I was always putting it off. I kept saying I was going to do it, and I'm writing and this and that. But they're the ones that threw me in a car one day and said, we're going to Toledo.
You're doing it.
And you're going to do it.
Yeah,
and
it was an open mic night.
And they kept saying the open mic was getting delayed and this and that, and I was trying to talk my way out of it.
Yeah.
But they forced me to stay there, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
And so they say you remember your first time. I know I remember my first time. So because we remember, how many people laughed? Do you remember how many people laughed?
Well, here's what happened. Was I went there and I'm talking with these comedians that are running it, and there's maybe 20, 30 people in there. So I'm like, okay, this is decent size for a first-time comedian.
Yeah.
And I told them, this is my first time doing stand-up. And they're like, okay, we're gonna have you close the show and be the headliner. I was like, okay. Turns out at an open mic, closing the show is the worst spot to go.
Yeah.
Because by then, everyone's going home because they have work in the morning.
I went, oh.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so when I got there, it was just the 5 comedians or whatnot that I had talked to. But each of them laughed and they encouraged me and they gave me notes afterwards and all this type of stuff.
And that's priceless.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And well, the comedian that was hosting that is the one that I inevitably got to do that show in Sandusky with.
Awesome.
So he was hosting that
Goes
show.
back to the networking.
Yeah.
It's a crazy cool community.
Oh.
It's cutthroat, but at the same time, it's also very supportive.
Oh, yeah. And Derek, the comedian who was here tonight, I met with him just earlier a little bit, and he told me, he was giving me advice about, networking and meeting with him, and he'd love to introduce me to people and all that stuff. So meeting with those comedians already, just a little bit that I've had, has been such a great experience.
Awesome. And thank you for being willing to take a chance and do more than just be a part-time writer.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you saw something and you grabbed it, and it's going to pay off.
Well,
it already is paying off.
Yeah, I'm writing my first article, and I went into Jack and Doe's to get my food, and I didn't even realize the comedy. I went to one a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and I didn't even realize it was happening, but I saw a poster on the wall. I was like, that's what my first article is going to be
They
about.
are an amazing business. It's a family-owned business.
Oh, yeah.
And we love Jack and Doe's. Larry, who owns it, he is a Marine. And he is the Marine assigned by the United States government to head up the entire Toys for Tots program for Hancock County. And he always works with Student Activities Board for the toy drive on campus every year, comes out for the Christmas party. They're just amazing. And so the students like to go there and eat after their programming that they host to give back. Well, I was telling Larry about Comedy Jam and how students had designed PR. They invited us to give them flyers. They taped them to pizza boxes. They taped them to their sub sandwiches. They just went over and beyond. And that's what's cool about family-owned businesses.
Oh, yeah.
You can build the relationships with them. They see the students, and then they find ways that they can support that's not taking a lot of money out of the revenue that they need to be making to support everybody working there. So I'm so glad you saw it there, because that was a thing where he was like, yeah, we'll support that. Yeah. We love your students coming in, so that's cool.
Sweet. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so you've got one more year left.
One more.
With the experiences that you have had in shadowing, meeting comedians, observing how a comedy concert's put together, networking with the students that have organized this, which is the Student Activities Board. Do you think that you will continue to move forward in your internship where it will be specifically in a for-profit, or are you thinking about, I need to weigh my options and maybe do something where it's a nonprofit where I'm getting more of these connections and then also work for a for-profit? What are your thoughts?
Well, at this point, I've already lived the broken lifestyle for a little bit, or the broke lifestyle, I mean.
What college student hasn't?
Ramen? Come on.
Yeah.
But
there's only so many recipes for ramen.
But I got into comedy and wanting to do this type of stuff because I want to put smiles on people's faces. And I realized back when I was a kid, I made the whole classroom laugh at one point.
Yeah.
We're all having a good time at that point. If you're laughing with everybody else, you're having a great time. Yeah. So with that, I'm not really in it for the money. I've never really, you can make a lot of money and it'd be pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, you can.
But I'm not in it for the money. I'm used to living just a normal middle class type of lifestyle anyway. I drive a Corolla and I love that Corolla. So I'm not in it for the money. I'm more into it for the experience and doing something that I love.
Cool. And anytime you get into a position where you are working at something that you love, it's not that much work. There can be some headaches with it.
Oh yeah.
But there's not a lot of people in this world that can say they really, truly love what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
So you have already discovered something that many hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, wish that they had been given permission or the opportunity to do.
Yep.
So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you for touching base, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Until then, be well.